Facebook and... Oh. We're live.
No, this is just YouTube.
Well, we're live on YouTube. Are we not live?
It's now saying done redirecting to YouTube. Okay. My internet's loading. I'm guessing we are live. But
I'm hoping this is doing it through the cloud and not through
this
your
link.
connection.
That's a good point. I reckon it's doing it through my connection. Right, here's the link. We are live. We are indeed live.
Okay, that's great. Well, let's very briefly
I can hear myself.
Share this on the internet. Are you posting this on LinkedIn? Are you posting this to the group or to... Yeah, we are live. I've got the link.
I'm not posting it anywhere. Just now. Right, I'm going to LinkedIn. Right, we're asking a lot of my internet right now. I've got live streaming news articles open. I'm streaming to YouTube. Right, here we go. That text show. Right. We're live. Posting.
Where have you posted this?
That's LinkedIn.
On our group or otherwise?
On our group, yeah.
Okay.
On that tech show group.
Do you want to do that on Facebook as well? Oh, we could do it on Twitter too.
You go Twitter.
Okay.
As I don't have the login. In fact, I don't even know whether I'm actually part of the
You're following us?
Facebook group yet. Yeah, that doesn't mean jack. It doesn't mean I can post me personally to it. Because I'm the number one. Yeah, I can't. I'll create post. Yeah, I can only post it. I'm just gonna post it. Because I'm not an admin yet. Cool. I wonder if there's a way for me to pause the live. Stop live stream. We have to test that at some point to see if it stops it but keeps the same kind of link and whatever, because it would be nice to know if we can get the link and then share it and then say start live stream.
Yeah.
Right, so I put it on LinkedIn, actual LinkedIn. I post it personally on that tech show Facebook because I'm not an admin, and I'm going to post it my personal Facebook and my personal Facebook. Yeah.
Cool. Well, as my internet grounds to a halt, I'm also posting it.
Okay. On Twitter, yeah?
I've posted it on Twitter, yeah.
Nice.
I'm going to take my glasses off because no one can see with my reflection in my eyes. Okay, so let's pretend that we're starting now for anyone who might be joining us or watching this at a later stage. And we've got comments turned on, right? So we might get people commenting if anyone joins us.
Well, that's another thing. That's me now watching our live stream, and let me go on 4G on my phone and see if I can watch comments and things like that.
Okay. So for anyone wondering why we're looking so amateurish here at the start, it's because this is our first proper live stream. So we'll get going in a moment. Right, are we ready?
No, I'm going to get the comments up just in case people leave any kind of well wishings or wishings on our failure.
Right. We wish you every success, and we hope you do a better job next time.
You tried. At least you tried.
Nice try, guys. I was reading on LinkedIn this morning that
why not?
We should be trying new things. Everybody should be trying new things and putting themselves outside of their comfort zone, and that's certainly where we are right now. Trying to do a live stream of the news that we can barely do when we record it and then edit it. So while Sam figures that out, if anyone is actually listening, and we've got some really cool headlines for you today. So the headlines that we're going to do a crypto section. We always do a crypto section, and this week we'll be talking about NFTs, mining, GPUs, and NVIDIA. We'll be talking about the silicon shortage, and we'll be talking about capacitor limits. We've got some headlines to call out for LastPass and some security flaws there. We like to talk about security. We occasionally like to talk about stocks as well, and so we'll be talking about the Federal Reserve, we'll be talking about GameStop, and we'll actually be talking about things going down like Reddit, because that's Reddit is now tied into stocks, as it happens. We'll be talking about some climate change issues as well, and how technology might be trying to solve some climate change problems. We'll be having a dip back into the 1970s to talk about Visual Basic. We'll be talking about Facebook and having to fork out a whole load of money again for something that they've... for some clever technology, they'll be having to fork out some serious cash. And we'll be talking about radio as well, because, we are radio. And some Roborock too. So Roborock, all that stuff is coming up once we've figured out whether we're doing everything correctly with the live stream.
We're doing everything correctly with the live stream, I can confirm.
Oh, great.
I have our live chat open. I've left a message just to anyone hey, everyone who's up and alive at this glorious hour.
So you have to keep us...
the churchgoers out there.
Churchgoers, yes. If you're getting ready for church in the UK, or you're joining us from around the world, where I think it would be, 7 o'clock in Australia right now, or at least heading on for 8 o'clock in Australia right now, depending on what part of Australia you're in. And what time would it be in the United States? Probably about 2 a.m. So late night people in the United States. Joining us from around the world. Hopefully, what it'll likely be is you'll be listening to this after the fact, most probably. Or a cut down version of this where you won't hear me talking, which will end up on the podcast. So, anyway, we've talked about those headlines. So, where should we start? I think it's probably a good start to start with something that's big, which is climate change. That's always the top of a news show. So, why don't we start there? Sam, you've got something you wanted to share with us?
Yep. So Harvard students at Harvard and research programs at Harvard are starting a geoengineering experiment, and it's not in the form of weather as we're probably used to hearing. It's more so to partially offset the impacts of climate change. So they're going to be sending balloons up into the stratosphere, and hopefully, I guess, starting to understand what we can do there in terms of mitigating against climate change by looking at reducing emissions, coping with changing climate. And it sounds very, very exciting. Let me share my screen here and then we can...
What is it exactly that they're hoping to do? Is it that they're trying to monitor and understand more about it? Or are they? Is this a research project, or is this a manipulation project?
Well, let's have a look. Let's have a wee look. My guess is that they're probably just looking at this stage and understanding. So, geo refers to emerging technologies. Okay, I don't really care about geoengineering. Solar geoengineering. Well, I don't know whether you're seeing my screen here, but it looks
I'm
like
seeing the screen.
No one understands quite a lot about it. Yeah, I'm hoping that they sort of know that what they're doing.
Harvard? I'm pretty sure Harvard probably do know what they're doing.
Harvard. Yeah. can't read this text quite quick enough, but that's just about geoengineering, I guess. So a new tool to address climate change. Let's check this little video out, see if there's any key things we can take out here. But I mean, of the offset, like it is, I think that's an incredible approach. I never even thought about kind of, sending balloons up into space and trying to geoengineer, because I guess, is it rain, or is it kind of, I wouldn't imagine weather has much to do with climate change.
Well, I guess they've been doing this sort of stuff for years, really. When they've been trying to manipulate hurricanes. There was a whole load of stuff that I remember from many years ago, watching documentaries where they were trying to manipulate hurricanes, trying to drop stuff into a hurricane to see if they could disperse it. So I think people have been experimenting with geoengineering for quite some time. We've also had, if you're going back just to weather balloons, we've been sending weather balloons up to monitor the atmosphere and try and understand things for a very long time. Even if you go back to just to Roswell and Area 51, I knew we'd get to mention that at some point on the podcast. Obviously, that was
aliens.
That was a weather balloon, was it not? Or at least that was the official explanation. So they've had there's been aliens. Aliens, yes. There's been a lot of exploring the stratosphere and the impacts on weather for a very, very long time by sending up weather balloons. And actually, just a few weeks ago, we talked about the cancellation of Google's Loon project, which was to deliver Wi-Fi by balloon. So maybe there's a surplus of balloons now that are able to be reused by Harvard. So what is it that they're doing? Are they actually manipulating they're trying to manipulate the weather, or are they monitoring it?
So what I've got here then is the project proposes laboratory investigations of alternate materials with properties that may make them more suitable candidates for stratospheric SRM. Now, it doesn't actually say what SRM stands for, because they obviously expect that we just know this stuff. But so
stratospheric research management, is that a good guess?
Go for it. Yeah,
I'm guessing that.
And then the other project is to sort to advance our understanding of key set of governance issues, and it is hoped to move the research community some steps further towards a shared set of assumptions and consensus on options. So to me, just to finish off that sentence, consensus on options for solar, geoengineering and governance. So to me, it sounds like they've got a bigger plan here, and they need some solid data to bring everyone into, their way of, maybe not their way of thinking, but their kind of align everyone based on actual data rather than assumptions. So it doesn't look like they're going to be doing anything. It's more some investigations, research project, exactly. So nothing tangible at this point, unfortunately, but it does sound exciting.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and this, I suppose, depends on whether it's going to be quick enough, really, to help us with issues that may need to be reversed. So the other topic that is climate change related is an iceberg the size of LA. So you've got that one for us as well, Sam. If you want to give us a little bit of an overview of that.
So yeah, I mean, we discussed a rift. We don't quite know what a rift is, but maybe
using the Doctor Who mechanism for what is a rift, with rifts in the space-time continuum. It's bad. It's bad. It's some sort of a breakup of things.
Yeah,
a crack.
And I'm sharing my screen, hopefully, but this is an article or I say a little short clip that I stumbled across. But yeah, so from that rift, a crack had formed, and has now, first of all, the rift had been traveling up northwards at about 1 kilometer per day, so it's moving, and then a crack formed, and now an iceberg has broken off of that rift, which is approximately the size of Los Angeles, which is just insane. Now, it doesn't,
pretty damn big,
with climate change, it is quite big. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we've got to tread carefully around these kind of climate change videos and things like that, because I think it's a lot happens just in the nature of kind of, as we move into warmer weathers or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean this is scary. It doesn't mention that whether this is a normal thing that takes place, but either way, it's impressive that this sort of stuff happens on our planet, and it could be to do with climate change, or this could be the natural generic motions of the planet. Who knows? It doesn't actually say anything about that, but they're monitoring this ice shelf daily using an automatic network of high precision GPS instruments that surround the station. These measure how the ice shelf is deformed and is moving. So yeah, like I say, it doesn't say that this is a worry or that there's any kind of danger here. It's just what it is, basically.
Yeah,
and that happened on the 26th of February.
Any changes in sort of permafrost we should be a little bit concerned about, I would guess. And hopefully, Harvard might be able to tell us a little bit more about it at some point. Just to look up the dictionary definition of a rift, it is literally a crack, a split, or a break in something. Or the alternative is a serious break in friendly relations, which it certainly seems that the iceberg has had a break in friendly relations there and separated from its permafrost. I hope I'm using the terms right. There is actually a website, isn't there, that allows you to compare the size of countries to another country, or a state to another country. How big is LA? It's got to be pretty. It's got to be covering a sizable part of the United Kingdom.
Hey Siri, how big is LA? Get her on the case. She was sending them to my phone.
She's very quiet,
iPhone. Siri, shut up. That's not very nice. Right, so she can't help us.
Okay.
Siri can't. Of course, Siri can't help us, which might actually lead us on to the
it's
Alexa
funny you should mention that
story.
It's funny you should mention that. What a great segue. So there is the next piece of news article that we might pick up on is McDonald's, amongst others, are starting to introduce Alexa and various other voice assistants. Well, let's see if Siri can meet up to that standard.
Not
They are going to start introducing these as the virtual assistant for drive-through technology. So you would be driving up to that little metal box where you place your order, and instead of a human voice, you would hear a computer's voice, and you would be attempting to order your burgers and fries and the rest of it through the magic of AI.
Here we go. Does it say whether it's going to be one of the named products, which I won't name, but or is it going to be their own kind of iteration of it?
Well, I think it's actually going to be Alexa, because I think they're going to pick up.
Okay.
So this is actually an article on CNN Business, which actually came out right this morning, and. If I could figure out how to share my screen, then I will.
Post it to me and I'll share.
I've actually posted it it's in the Zoom chat here, so you should be able to find that one. It should be a CNN article.
See, now what Chris has forgotten is that I needed to leave the Zoom meeting and rejoin, so I've lost
bollocks.
that chat.
Hang on, let me just repost all of these things to you.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, I was just... no, I've got loads of them open, I just don't have the CNN one.
Hang on, I'm just going to repost all of these links,
and then
because contrary to anyone
start with
who's
the
actually,
CNN one.
Contrary to anyone who's actually looking at this, this news, we have actually done some preparation.
Right. Well, that looks like a mess. So
so I can
CNN.
hear that.
Do you hear what?
Oh, hang on. See it. Oh my God, I thought you were playing something, but it's actually that CNN article has just started playing. So CNN very helpfully just started to play something that I've had open for quite a while.
There we go. I'm opening and I'm sharing.
So I think it might actually be a McDonald's custom build, actually, by the looks of it. Although it does say McDonald's and other
Chicago.
chains.
Drive through Chicago.
What I really like about it is the article actually talks about bringing the Jetsons treatment. So, to describe anything tech, we're still using a cartoon from the 1960s as an example of what we're actually doing. I believe it's the 60s. We can check that.
My only thing around this is like customer service is one of those things that, I don't know, are people, are we just voiding ourselves of human contact in unnecessary places? Customer food and customer service is one of those things that, people earn tips for.
Well, I don't think you're going to drop the customer service aspect of the window. It's a great thing, I think, right now in the pandemic when we're trying to distance ourselves. But obviously this doesn't really distance yourself because there was already distance in there. You were already talking into a metal box.
Yeah, that's true.
So you're still gonna meet somebody at the window. I think the idea is they're trying to get through things a little faster and trying to process orders a little faster, and that will probably help them to a certain degree. But we've seen the reliability of some of these voice assistants. So really, it's not going to make it any easier to order a vegan burger, is it, really? I mean, anyone with dairy or any other intolerances, gluten, for example, any celiacs out there listening to the show, I know there's at least one. There might be... it's not going to make it any easier for you.
No, I can imagine... it alludes to this idea of it being a custom build then, because they would need to ask, do you have any extras? Do you have any allergies? Do you have any of this or whatever? So you have to go through those motions, which again might actually slow things down because you have to, it's like an automated phone service where you have to wait through all the options to then say what it is. You can't just say, hey, can I have a double cheeseburger with a skinny latte on the sides and a, I don't know.
Yes, IVR.
Oat milk flat white.
IVR, the voice recognition service that we all hate. There's nothing worse than IVR, really, in my opinion. Having worked on many of those systems, I really hate it. Having to use your voice to talk to a robot is never a particularly pleasant scenario on a phone. I mean, I think we're a bit more used to it now, having to talk to things like Alexa. The bugs that we've invited into our home. So that we can have microphones on all the time. I must admit, I do turn all mine off, even with having an automated home. I don't have any voice assistants turned on. I don't like the listening.
Well, it's mentioning. Well, that's paranoia. There, we'll move on from that. That's paranoia. No, there are some freaky things that happened. I think Siri's all right. Siri, you're not listening, are you? See, shouldn't say a thing.
I think that might be that might say more about the quality of Siri than anything else. Poor old Siri.
My friend.
She's better than Katana, isn't she? Or Katana, or whatever it is. Microsoft's one. Don't hear much about that these days.
It's all it's all on the PC. I don't think they have any kind of gadgets or anything like that. It's all kind of
not since the downfall of Windows OS. I think.
Anyway,
should we move on from these voice assistants in drive-thrus? I think we've got coming up next. Well, let's just recap the other things that we've got to talk about. So we've got everything that was going down this week. So we've had Reddit go down, we've had the Federal Reserve go down as GameStop went up. We've got LastPass and their security issues. We've got a whole load of stuff around crypto. We've got a Facebook lawsuit, and we've got radio. Lots of stuff about radio. Where would you like to go next, Sam? We'll go from your order.
Let's go lawsuit because it's open right in front of me right now.
Oh, great. Well, do you want to share that to your screen, and we'll go through the lawsuits? So, Facebook have been in trouble recently, where they are now facing a $650 million settlement for facial recognition. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, Sam?
Well, I mean, my understanding of this immediately was a few years back when they released you would be auto-tagged. And in fact, the feature is still available, I'm sure, because I dipped into my settings recently and you're able to be auto-tagged on photos far and wide. And my guess is that actually, well, I'm not actually sure what the issue is, but specifically in that's raised the lawsuit. But I mean, like I was saying, I think this is a fantastic idea, but it's unfortunate that it's kind of done by Facebook because they are, well, they're Facebook.
Well, this
to be honest,
this leads us in from the invasion of privacy that is, all of the things that we've invited into the home, and in terms of the voice assistants, and of course, Facebook is one of those areas where they tend to be. It's. I think it's where a lot of invasion of privacy concerns come up, and this is a class action lawsuit, which is essentially a grouping of a wide variety, lots and lots of people grouping together under a particular lawsuit filing to take on a large company. I think often a lot of this work is taken on by a law firm who's trying to look for a lot of people to group together underneath it, so that they can take on a giant like Facebook. And I think there's a £650 million or dollars even sounds like an awful lot, but I think when it comes down to it, there's so many people that are signed onto this suit. It turns out that you will get at least $345. So that just goes to show you how many people have actually signed onto this suit. Obviously, I'm sure that the lawyers who probably do this work pro bono to start with, just getting the money back for, if they're actually successful, no win, no fee, and all that. They will probably be taking a sizable chunk, but $345 per person who was signed onto the suit doesn't seem like a hell of a lot, especially when Facebook have got how many people? It's well over 1 billion people now are signed onto Facebook, right?
Surely.
So yeah, I mean, realistically, I would say we've all been affected by this. We've all been tagged in certain things. If this is a significant definition, I'd say, you would in terms of law, you would expect that we'd all be getting some sort of a payout. Where's my couple of $100?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just thinking about it now, and it's unfortunate because I think it's going to be there's going to be an interesting turn of what becomes of this, and what they're basically saying, and I had it highlighted here, was biometrics is one of the two primary battlegrounds, along with geolocation, that will define our privacy rights for the next generation. And that's right. I mean, biometrics are obviously very, very important, especially, I mean, they maybe weren't so a few, 50 years ago or whatever, but now they're becoming, because the technology and the sort of, the technology around what we can do with biometric data. It used to be that we just put our hand in a scanner and we can just enter a door, but now you can work out a lot from biometric data, which obviously means it's a big deal now. So, and unfortunately, Facebook, and I'm going to defend Facebook here, unfortunately, Facebook are probably one of the pioneers to use biometric data on such a accessible global scale. And they've been bitten by it. They were the first mover in that. Well, maybe not the first mover, but that's for argument's sake. They're one of the first movers in this space, and they've got their hands slapped now with a $650 million lawsuit filed against them. But it's really what this means for the future, and maybe in 10 years time, it would be, hey, we've rolled out a new feature. It scans your face on any of your photos. Would you like to turn it on? And maybe that's going to be the result of something like this, but they kind of did it without asking. I mean, you can turn it off, you can turn all this stuff off, but they kind of did it without asking. And I think that will be that'll be the important step that comes of this. Like, I feel bad for Facebook having, like I say, being the first mover in this territory, but they've had their hand bitten. It'd be interesting to see where this goes, and that's where I think it might be going. It's all about what is it called when you implicit? Is it implicit when you have to allow cookies to track you, for instance, on a website? It's not explicit. Am I using the right words there, Chris? The grammar Nazi.
Yeah, I think you are. I've got a little bit of an issue just
wrong.
going on here. My recording has crashed. Give me a second, and then we can carry on. Come on now.
Well, I'm sure we can download this off of YouTube afterwards, so because it's all streaming to YouTube.
Yeah, that's true.
Assuming everything is hunky dory.
But we like our listeners to have the best quality microphone sounds, and at the moment,
I'm recording. Apparently, it's recording to the.
Yeah, I'm recording to the cloud.
The cloud recording icon is on the screen. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. It's Logic that stopped recording.
Yeah, Logic has stopped recording.
Okay. Just use QuickTime, mate. Why are you in Logic? Just open up QuickTime and do new audio recording.
Because I like Logic. But you might be right. Okay, so I think I'm back to recording now. Let me just check it's using the right.
Okay.
It lost my microphone, which is a bit strange.
I just open up QuickTime, do new audio recording, and I can pick up this microphone from QuickTime. It's super easy, and it's not demanding. Well, I hope it's not as demanding on the CPU.
Well, there is that actually. It probably isn't as demanding. So maybe we can do an episode on how to record yourself properly. Ooh, I might learn something.
Anyway, I to your benefit, probably I ranted on there a little bit, but I don't know if you heard what I was saying. But in essence,
I did. Yes.
Facebook were one of the first movers in the space. They got their hand bitten. I wonder what will happen now going forward when thinking about biometrics.
I think Facebook is
right now biometrics might not be that important.
I mean, I think Facebook as a whole is a really interesting thing because I think it creates so many positives and negatives in the world because there's a whole load where I think we have to think about the positives that come around from having a giant social media platform like Facebook that's connecting people from all around the world. It's allowing you to get in touch. In the same way as we used to have with things like Friends Reunited, it's moved that on to a significant step. And they've also delivered us some great software. So I hazard a guess that half of the internet is built on React these days, which is something that was, designed internally in Facebook. And they've delivered a whole load of other great software. There's some fantastic engineers that are working at Facebook, but I think that there are some certainly questionable moral standards there, and I think you're always going to get the as they push the envelope on technology with certain things like this, where they're doing the auto tagging, you are going to have lawsuits, you are going to have things. Limits pushed and things have to be redefined, and whichever is the right way or wrong way of doing these things. It's expected, I think, that any company that was doing this sort of stuff is going to have those lawsuits. I think the problem comes from the fact that you're reliant on one man at the top and his opinions of things and his senior management and then the various other people that he has around him. And I know specifically on the ethics side, he has former Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg actually working alongside him. And, on the moral side of things. And you're reliant on a very small group of people that are able to control the social interactions or even political interactions, as we've talked about recently, of 1 billion, 1.5 billion people. They are affecting, everything in politics, governance, all sorts of stuff around the world. They are treading a very fine line. It's the first time it's been tread, and I think arguably they're maybe not doing a great job of it. They need to be leading from the forefront, and at the moment they are allowing things to just happen. And I think they need to stop allowing things to happen. They need to be taking a bit more control over it and thinking more carefully about how their place in the world as, technology leaders is affecting the whole world. We've seen huge rises in populism over the last decade. And Facebook, Twitter, the social platforms have got a hell of a lot to answer for when it comes to those things. And, they've only recently taken action on the likes of Donald Trump. And it's probably a little too late. Whether it was the right thing for them to do to ban him is a significant question, because there are a whole load of debates about whether platform someone or not, or whether you give them enough rope to hang themselves. I think clearly, Donald Trump was given as much rope as he needed and didn't manage to hang himself. And I think because he had so many people that supported him, I think it's another one of those questionable debates that actually used to happen. Oh God, everything's crashing today. 1 second.
Well, I can take over, but I think you took the words right out of my mouth, really. Bringing it back to the kind of biometric issue that Facebook are facing right now. I don't think they have the moral. Their moral and their kind of ethos is just not in the right place. They're not. They don't. It seems like they don't understand the impact and the authority that they have right now, and the impact that they're able to have. They obviously don't understand that, and when they willy-nilly just roll out these features thinking everyone's going to like it, they're making those stupid mistakes. And this is just one of those things. Maybe another company with a bit better, you mentioned morality, a bit of a better moral standing may have approached that in a very different way, because they understand the biometrics is, personal to you. I just think Facebook have just. I'm struggling to find the words, but I think that they're just their heart is just not in the right place to have the sort of power that they have. You mentioned Donald Trump. That for me is external. That's like they have a platform. Someone is kind of found a loophole and are misusing it. Whereas this was a simple feature that all they needed to do was ask for people's permission to use that data. And we haven't done a news segment on this, but the whole Facebook's fiasco that's going on with the new update, where Apple is going to force Facebook's hand in asking the permission to track you whilst you're on your phone. And Apple's simple answer to that is, we just ask that Facebook asks for permission before they track you, before they use your data. And Facebook don't see a problem with that. And that's the unfortunate thing, is going back to what you said, the moral standing is just not there for Facebook. And I just don't think they deserve the amount of power and impact that they have, because they're not there. They're not all there, mate.
Well, I mean, I think this is, they're not the only company that suffers with this. I mean, Google have recently, in the last week or so, actually, it's been a thing that's been going on for a couple of months now. They've hired a few people in at senior positions for morality, frankly, and they fired them because you try and speak up in the likes of Google or Facebook, and you're likely to be overridden. You bring in specific people to try and raise the right questions within the company and do something about it, and yet they're firing the very people that they're bringing in to do those jobs. And I think it's questionable. I think these social media giants need to think seriously about stuff. And going back to the news from a few weeks ago with Jeff Bezos leaving Amazon, we are reliant on a hell of a lot of single individuals that have built up these massive companies, that the biggest companies in the world, and then they're handing over the leadership to the next in line. There's no election for that. You're reliant on the people who are going to take it on. I think we have to. I think we've probably been relatively lucky in the fact that Steve Jobs handed over to Tim Cook. But what happens? Bezos is handing over to Andy Jassy. What happens when Zuckerberg goes? Who does he hand it to? Because that will happen, and anyone with questionable even more questionable morals. Because I don't know if that's Zuckerberg's problem, but he doesn't engage with those sort of things necessarily. He probably will be forced to over the coming years. What happens when he hands over to the next person in charge? Because I think it's we don't have elections for who is running these massive companies that are arguably bigger than most governments now.
Yeah. Well, we're going off tangent. We're going on a tangent now, so we should.
Yeah. Well, I do love a good
the
tangent.
Next news story.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah. Let's bring us back.
Okay. It's political.
Yes. Yeah, we've ended up in politics. We should try and avoid the politics there. But well, I mean, we can continue on another day. I'm sure this will come back round and round again. Yeah. Have we had any comments at all on any of these channels that we're broadcasting live to? I know it's Sunday morning.
I had it up, but it seems to have closed. Meaning we're not streaming anymore. No. Let's have a look. Actually, you can do it from the. I've just noticed you can do it from the menu on.
From Zoom.
Zoom.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a little wee drop down that says view stream link. No comments right now. But
all right, cool. Well, we'll carry on anyway.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about security.
Yeah,
it's
good.
Probably a good time to, as a segue, to continue on that with LastPass. Have you got the article up there, Sam?
I don't know. Let me click it up. I thought we were going to go something light-hearted after that, but
we'll go light-hearted, surely.
Who's the? Where's the article from? Oh, I got
you got it.
I got it. Review Geek.
Yeah,
got it. Yeah.
So let's bring that up on the screen.
Cool.
Okay, so LastPass.
Here we go.
Largely a place where a lot of people trust their passwords to be living, which makes a hell of a lot of sense. You don't want to manage all the passwords across various different platforms. I know personally I have 250 compromised passwords that Google is currently telling me about. These things happen. Your passwords get leaked. However, LastPass is supposed to solve that problem, and yet they have identified what is it there, Sam? Seven trackers within LastPass.
Apps Flaw, Google Analytics, Crash. I'm reading these now. Okay, so Google Analytics is usage. Crashlytics is to know when their bloody thing was crashed. Like, what were they doing? Firebase, I don't really know. Tag Manager. I mean, Tag Manager is analytics. Same thing.
Well, Firebase is
do you know what Mixpanel does?
No, I don't know what Mixpanel is.
I don't know what the analytics. It'd be interesting to know what these do, but you tell me, this sounds scary, but I actually don't think this is an issue because your passwords, yes, they're using tracking apps. Like, there's no point in reinventing the wheel, but are they able to see the passwords? Probably not.
Well, I think this is a great point.
So a load of hot air.
It could be indeed, actually, and I think it's worth exploring this in more detail because we do tend to see this every now and again. We get, particularly around security, issues that are raised up to go, oh my God, look at the terrible things that's happening. And actually, in this instance, Google Analytics, Crashlytics, Firebase, Firebase if you're hosting on Firebase, Tag Manager, these are standard things that are in every application. And they are not going to be exposing your passwords. They're going to be exposing certain things like usage data, but largely that sort of information is only used at a high level. You don't tend to dive into a customer by customer record. You're looking there for trends. You want to know if your app is still working. You want to know if there's latency issues. You want to know how many customers are using it. You want to know where they're using it. And all of this stuff is actually stuff that helps improve the app. So I would say that this article, which sounds particularly ominous, is actually not relevant at all.
Is saying here he does. I mean, 1Password, which I use, 1Password doesn't use any trackers. Dashlane has 4. Roboform, Bitwarden has 2. I mean, I'm not sure 1Password must have some form of analytics data or something. However, actually, that raises a point. When something crashes, it asks, "Do you want to send this data?" I think maybe that's the way to do things. But yeah, like you say, it's pretty commonplace for applications to have. What did you say over text to me the other day? There was it between, we were talking about GDPR, and there was two categories you split data into. There was one.
Oh yes, public and private
and non-personal.
Yeah, so I mean,
private,
GDPR is a really interesting point because as we were talking about the other day, which was just a standard conversation, so just give a bit of insight into the sort of exciting things that Sam and I talk about in between episodes. GDPR. So GDPR is the European Union sort of replacement, I guess, or monolithic replacement for data privacy, and the Data Privacy Protection, the Data Protection Act, which was a UK-based thing, and essentially it hasn't really been tried yet. So a lot of people have introduced various different ways of handling GDPR within their own organizations. I think for people who are building modern solutions, modern architectures, the best way of handling this information is to split it into both public data and private data. So your customer database, which traditionally would have been a single customer database, actually gets split into two: one that has the public information and one that has the private information. So private information would be that you are I was going to use a random name then, and I actually came up with a real one. You are Sam Gregory, and you are of a certain age, and you are and your date of birth is whatever your date of birth is, Sam. I actually don't know that, and where you live and your house
33.
number.
You can say it, Chris. I'm 33.
You're just rubbing it in now because you're a year younger than me.
Yeah.
But then you have that specific information, which is your private information, whereas your public information would actually just say that we don't actually care that your name is Sam Gregory, and we don't care that you were born on April the 21st. Am I anywhere close with that?
Not even close, but carry on.
All right. Well, that's the thing. We don't really care. We just care that you're 33. So the public data and the private data you keep separate, so that actually I don't really care that you are Sam Gregory with this level of information. I actually just care that you are a male, you are 33, and your general interests are and whereabouts you are in the country, because that's actually public data that I can find anywhere on the internet. As long as I can disassociate the two, I'm kind of fine there. And you have to have these platforms that are built to, in the instance that you receive a subject access request or then a right to be forgotten, where subject access request is telling me, give me everything you know about me, which is fine. You need to be able to go and collate all of that information together. But a right to be forgotten, when the circumstances are correct, you have to remove all of that data. If I am removing all of that data, I want to be left with the stuff that's statistically important, such as, male 33 living in London. That helps me to be able to understand how my system is being used. But as long as I can't tie that back and actually tell you that is Sam Gregory, then we're all good. And I think, in terms of how those things are tied together, this is what we're seeing in LastPass. You're going to get, that's public information that's being shared. It's not your private information. It's not your password.
I'm just I'm looking at these other trackers, because in the case of the LastPass, I'm guessing this is non-personal information. These sound like non-personal information, and this what's his name? The registrar Kukets. These tracker things, he does say like he can't confirm whether the passwords are being tracked. So I think we're dealing with non-personal analytics tracking here, which doesn't associate you personally, and I doubt this could even look at your passwords at all.
No, generally it wouldn't. I don't think. I mean, so this does seem like another one of those articles that's hot air. So we've ourselves fallen prey to something that is a sensationalist article, which in regards to the previous conversation about Facebook, this is the sort of information that gets sent out. You read a headline, you get excited about it, you post it, you repost it on Facebook, and it starts a cascade of information that doesn't really affect you, really. Someone starts something, it goes viral because, people become concerned. You could have a lot of people leaving LastPass. It could be massively affecting their company. Generally trying to do a good thing by making it easier to manage your passwords. They could end up losing a whole load of customers just because somebody raised a security concern about trackers which are actually there to improve your product. So I think it's a really interesting loop there, and maybe a bit of an insight into fake news issues.
For sure. And they're careful not to use many, explicit terminology of like, this is wrong, we shouldn't be doing this. They just present the facts. That's the thing. So unfortunately, the title is LastPass Android app contains 7 trackers from third-party companies. It does, but your mind is left to kind of wonder what that is, what that means. Is that a bad thing or a good thing? I don't know.
I think really we should return to this at some point. We'll do a little bit more of a deep dive, and we'll figure out how should you be concerned about that, because on the face of it, these are just things that are in every application.
We'll get a security expert on the show. So.
That's a great idea, actually. We should do that. So let's move on to things going down. So things that have gone down this week. Reddit went down. The Federal Reserve went down. And GameStop went up. So actually that did the opposite. So this is an ongoing thing of stock market related things. The Federal Reserve is obviously like the United States version of almost the Bank of England, I guess, but probably on a much greater scale, actually. And it was down for a while, which actually stopped people from sending payments, which is significant, I would say. And equally, we've brought it up now. There we go. So actually, the ability to send money went down for several hours. I think it was about 3 days ago. And this was around the same time that Reddit went down as well. So big things going offline, significant. Have you read some of the information in there, Sam? Do you want to share a bit more there?
Operational error. As an operational error, I'm just wondering what actually happened and why, because it's people.
So having been inside,
it's a big thing.
Having been inside a huge company when there is an outage, it's really fascinating to see what happens on the internet when you're in the midst of this. So one of the last couple of weeks when I was working at Amazon back in 2013, I guess, something around that sort of time, Amazon.com went down and started forwarding to localhost. And in the midst of all of this stuff happening, which was actually a relatively innocent problem that actually just cascaded with inside the system and took down the whole of Amazon.com worldwide. On Twitter, everybody thought that China was attacking, and people jumped to incredible conclusions. And so, Federal Reserve goes down for an issue. I'm sure that along with Reddit, people are going to be immediately jumping onto the conspiracies.
Yeah, that's hilarious. They haven't released any information of what happened or anything like that. But this does happen. This does happen in within tech, and we're not all perfect. I'm just seeing if
far from it. We tend to just learn from mistakes, really. Amazon.com goes down a lot less because they're very good at learning from their mistakes.
Yeah. Can't see anything. They're just talking about just general outages and.
Is that a man with half a beard?
There's not much more information on that. There we go. There's that clickbait. It's that probably just some, I don't know. Rational author says not to do when the stock market tanks. That's odd, isn't it? Why do they use that image?
Why has he got half a beard?
Anyway.
That's what I want to know. See, this is the problem with searching on the internet.
I think it's probably just a glitch.
Like yeah, it's just a glitch, and you've clicked this now, and you're following, and you've been served an ad.
We won't.
We won't
look at that. We won't look at that.
All because we want to see a man with half a beard. Anyway, let's move on from that one.
Yeah, what we got?
So yeah, Reddit went down as well, and GameStop went up. So obviously Reddit and GameStop forever tied together now in history, and GameStop actually increased again by 100% in one day, which is a massive leap. So the saga continues. Probably don't have much more to say on that right now.
Do you know why it went up? Is it just the continuation of this expletive username? Was it something that was done, or is it just a continuation of what they have been doing?
I think it's a continuation of the same thing that we talked about last week. There's a Reddit army there that are trying to manipulate the stock market, and frankly doing it very successfully. You also have hedge funds pitching in on that now as well. And yes, the craziness, the madness continues. I at the time of me reading through this and doing the research for this article, there was no explanation as to why this happened. So again, I think we may find out more. But the saga continues. Yeah. And so should we move on to something a little lighthearted then, Sam? So because we've been quite intense for a good 10 minutes or more now. Radio. So you found something exciting this week.
I did, and you complimented it with something equally as exciting. Let me share my screen. But it was someone has built a website and a web app. You know, those two words.
Interchangeable, largely.
Ring gloriously in my mind. Interchangeable indeed, but I seem to have lost it. That's annoying. I'll get it on the screen share. But basically, someone has built a web app whereby it's a Google Earth type of experience, and you can rotate around the Earth and listen to various different radio channels from all over the globe. And it was just I was in Jamaica earlier, and it was glorious. It was lovely. Just listening to the sounds of the Earth were just incredible.
So we can't listen to this right now, but you can share the article here, can't you? Or share the web app. Are you sharing the web app or the website, Sam? Which is it?
I'm sharing both. Here we go. Share screen. I couldn't find the article per se, but
well, we don't need the article really. We actually just need the website where people can go and have a look at it.
No, yeah. I wish we could pipe the audio in because we can go anywhere. But it was radio.garden, non-secure, unfortunately. But, it is what it is. But there's where I was. I think that's Jamaica anyway. I'm not quite sure where my geography is particularly hot. But either way.
You're in the Bermuda Triangle area of the world there.
Zoom out.
Just trying to bring it back to Area 51 that we mentioned earlier on the show.
We could go to Africa. Oh, now this is where... experience isn't so great on the old mouse, on the old trackpad. But yeah, we can go Africa, and you can listen to different radio stations from all over the globe. And it's very,
so those light green dots nice. Then they're actual radio stations, are they?
Yeah, these are different radio stations, and you can favorite them and whatever. So this is radio.garden. And then you thought I was talking about some, is there anything in
yeah, it's funny.
I wonder if there's any radio channels in Antarctica.
Because I thought I'm pretty sure I've seen this before. I wonder if they're just getting some new PR.
No, because your one is a driving one, isn't it? This is what I've got.
Oh no, well this one that you have been showing, I'm pretty sure I've heard of it actually. So it might be an older thing, but it's great that we can see it. I think it's pretty cool. Maybe this is a revision. But the other thing that's been doing the rounds in terms of global radio is this site. What's the URL there, Sam?
driveandlisten.herokuapp.com.
So this is pretty cool. It's taken from dash cams. It's not actually playing on my screen that you've got here, Sam.
It's playing for me.
Oh, okay. so we can see it now. And yes, it's moving, but it's very, very slow over the Zoom link. But maybe we can find a faster version for the for when we show this after the fact. But essentially, it's taken from dash cams from around the world, and it allows you to drive around a city whilst listening to that local radio, which I think is in a year where we haven't been able to travel anywhere. It's a great way of experiencing another part of the world.
Mm.
So where are you now, Sam? Where are you looking?
Amsterdam. I'm in Amsterdam. That was my Netherlands. Yeah, of course, there's some bikes there. I love Amsterdam. I've been many times. It's very nice. But maybe I'm reading into it a little bit too much. But it's oh, there we go. Heineken Experience. I've been there. That's nice. Oh yeah, look at that. Audiovisual kind of experiences are just, it's such a simple audiovisual experience. You know, it's more to it than just listening to the radio. It's experiencing life as a Amsterdonian. Is that a great word?
Amsterdonian. I'm not really too sure that is right.
I think it's nice. And yeah, I don't know. I was going to take another guess at another way to Amsterdite. No.
That's a shame, because we've had.
I mean, the music.
I think we're out of sync a little bit now, Sam, because you're trying to play this radio station. You're dancing though, so that's good. Yeah, we've had we have had an Amsterdonian on the show, or we've already recorded it. He'll be on at some other point in the future, Patrick Pladshare. So I'll ask him, and maybe we can put that at the top of the episode, as to what do you call someone who's from Amsterdam, just in case anyone's interested in that.
Text.
So yeah, that's radio, which there's some cool stuff going out there in radio at the moment, and obviously a podcast is just a modern version of radio in a way. We've all got these rather exciting microphones in front of us, and we're talking randomly into the ether and hoping that someone might be listening. So let's talk about crypto, because we've got quite a lot to say on crypto, and then we'll finish with a light-hearted one, which is computer games. So crypto NFTs might be a good place to start. So NFT, what is an NFT? Well, an NFT is a non-fungible token, and essentially they are actually They come in the form of cryptographic art, or a complete ownership of a non-fungible token that is an image. And so we've got a record sale here of an NFT, which I think you had the image there for as well, Sam, which was rather nice. That has sold for a record $6.6 million, which for a digital piece of artwork is a colossal amount of money.
Oh, it's digital. I actually thought it was a sculpture, but I'm just refreshing the page because I can't find the.
No, I believe it's a
thumbnail image, but there we go. There it is.
Digital,
look at that. It is
digital artwork. Digital artwork that sold for 6.6 million. Because obviously, we're looking at a copy of that digital artwork now. We can share that anywhere around the world. That image as a thumbnail or as an image could be shared anywhere. It could be shared on Instagram, it could be shared on Twitter. But somebody does actually own that piece of artwork. That piece of artwork is stored in a blockchain, and the ownership of which is stored in a blockchain. And they are the official owner in the same sense as we would have a painting, where you could share a picture of the Mona Lisa anywhere in the world, and I could put that on my Instagram if I particularly wanted to, but that sits and hangs in the Louvre, and that's where its origin is. So it in kind of much the same way, the same is true for an NFT. A little bizarre though that it is a 100% digital piece. It's not going to hang in someone's house or art gallery around the world. It's going to sit encrypted in a blockchain.
For those listening, what is this digital artwork of?
So this is a how do we describe this picture? This particular picture is of what looks like a slumped, naked Donald Trump who's been graffitied as people just, idly walk past.
Basically.
It looks like Donald Trump. We can only assume it's Donald Trump. His face is turned away from the camera, but the hair, the glutinous mass is.
I went for the slightly tame version. You just go gluttonous mass.
It's unmistakably Donald Trump, even though we've never seen him without his clothes on, unless of course you've seen the suspected videos out there that do exist or don't exist. It's unmistakable, and obviously he has loser graffitied across his shoulder there as well. So you can go and take a picture. Take a look and have a look at this picture. You can't take the picture. To take the picture, you would need $6.6 million.
There we go.
Because these artworks are starting to be. So the artist is a person named Beeple, and these are actually what drew my attention to this is these are starting to be sold at big auction houses. So there are NFTs that are listed at the likes of Sotheby's, which is incredible. Really, it's a real turn as crypto starts to become more and more mainstream.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And so you should be. Which brings us into the world of crypto and mining, and there is as Ethereum looks to move away from mining and proof of ownership and move to proof of stake, which actually means that you kind of carry on mining in much the same way, but you actually have to invest 32 Ether, which is now the equivalent of around £33,000 as it currently stands. So it's probably pretty close to $50,000. Nvidia, where most of the mining is done on GPUs or graphic processing units, and they are because they're the most powerful at being able to do to run hashing algorithms, which is we can go into crypto at another in more detail at another point, but essentially it's just small calculations that allow you to confirm the number of transactions that have been completed on a blockchain. And so mining is required for crypto to actually work around the world. It's an important part of making sure that those transactions are confirmed. However, Nvidia are stepping in because there is a global silicon shortage at the moment, and they are actually releasing some specific GPU chips, but they are also releasing a software update that stops mining, or at least slows down the performance of mining on chips that should really be used for gaming in what I think is their opinion. Although, as I mentioned just very briefly, then they are launching mining specific chips, which is interesting. But there is a global silicon shortage. So the pandemic has led to a lack of components available. 79% of all of that silicon is created in China and Asia. I'm saying China and Asia because it is Asia, but most of that does happen in China. But yeah, there is a global silicon shortage, which there has been a huge boom in gaming during the pandemic, and there's been a huge boom in mining because we've talked a lot about crypto and the rise in crypto and how that is so important, mining, to actually being able to confirm transactions that occur in the blockchain, the global application of mining is incredibly important to making sure that the blockchain can't be corrupted. But we can go into that in more detail if you'd like.
There's a lot to unpick there.
There wasn't there? Sorry, I keep doing this in terms of ranting.
The only thing I have to add to it is, like you say, the gaming is a big thing, and PlayStation are struggling to fulfill orders because they can't get hold of the material and they can't get hold of the graphics cards that they use inside the PlayStation 5. So it's kind of a worldwide effect. I wonder why or how they are detecting and limiting mining on the specific graphics card.
Yeah, that is a great question. And I can only presume that they're able to detect a series of very similar transactions, because all you are doing when it comes to mining is, you are essentially trying to find a hash that meets a certain criteria to confirm all of the transactions that have occurred. And once that hash is found, it is able to complete the block, and then that block is solidified as this is a block of solid transactions that now has a direct link back to the previous block in the chain. That's hence where the term blockchain comes from. And so the fact that they are running those same calculations over and over and over again, that is a repeated pattern that's occurring on the chip, which I would presume is very different to the wide range of computation that happens to actually display proper graphic information. It's not going to be just the same transaction over and over again to try and find a hash that matches for all of the transactions that have occurred within a theoretical block.
Someone's been doing their research.
I know a little bit about blockchain. This is important.
Something about blockchain.
No, it's. I think it's important because this is the way that things are going, and the one thing which I think is particularly interesting is with the mining side of things, there is a vulnerability to how you can essentially steal from the blockchain, and this is a thing that has caused Ethereum, for example, to split from Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, because the miners are so important, they're integral to confirming transactions within the chain. If you create more than 51% of the miners in that system, that gives you the point where that is the tipping point, much like it would be in controlling the ownership of a business. You can control the ownership of the blockchain. You could then insert your own transaction to say, actually, I have a million Ethereum within this chain, just FYI, and then you complete all of the rest of the transactions. That then propagates out to all of the nodes, and then you have 1 million in the blockchain. It confirms it. It's a way of stealing money, and this 51% attack, it kind of creates a huge vulnerability. It's a way of stealing money, ripping people off, and actually, maybe in NVIDIA and the route that they're taking here, I guess that people aren't going to necessarily be using those chips to mine. There's a great silicon shortage. It's reducing the chance that somebody could go and do the 51%. But then again, you can't really do this with a. Excuse me. I think having a mining rig that would do this locally would be almost impossible. You'd have to run this in the cloud or some massive data center to get to a point where you owned 51%, or not, you ran 51% of the miners in the blockchain. To be able to do that, it's becoming less and less likely. You would need a huge investment, and then again, this is a reason why Ethereum is moving to Ethereum 2, which is where you actually have to have a proof of stake as well. So you actually have to buy into being a miner, essentially, and that again is another reduction of the barrier to entry, which again would make it less likely that the blockchain could become corrupted.
Well, there we go. Another tangent. Let's get back on the news.
Okay. So I think let's finish it off then, really, because I think the last thing is a return to 70s programming. If you want to bring up the article there, Sam. I think this predates Sam and I, as we've already discussed age on this particular episode of the news. Basic computer games book. We're talking here about Basic, the programming language, and there is a desire to bring it back because this is how a lot of people sort of learned how to program. But before computers were mainstream, really, when this was more of a home DIY effort where you would build your computer and then you would write the software for it to live on. We're talking, 1973 for the book being first published?
And I've got to say, how beautiful is that artwork? Not, I've got to, not this thing. That's awful, but I just love that 70s computer aesthetic. I think that font is amazing.
Yes, and
Cool.
what's interesting is this is 1973, and actually the C in BASIC does look a hell of a lot like Pac-Man.
It does. It does.
Which I think
Who
that
came
predates
first?
Pac-Man, right?
The C or the Pac-Man? I don't know. I'm not familiar. Don't know.
Do you want to tell us a bit more about
Hey Siri,
what's
when was
going on here?
Pac-Man made? Well, 1980. So yeah, predates Pac-Man. Thank you, Siri. Rude.
Siri actually being useful right then.
First computer book sale over a minute. So basically, what the community has done is they've created a GitHub repo, and you can go into this repo and find all the games that were part of that programming book, which is quite a lot. To be fair,
That is a lot of games, actually.
96 games on. I mean, I don't know whether that's that many in the book, but 96 games on here. And then once you click into these, you can get all the different people who've written these things in various different. See, JavaScript hasn't been created for that particular one, but
So they're writing them into multiple languages here then. So what we've got,
Yeah.
C#, Pascal, JavaScript.
Perl, Python, Ruby, VB.NET. I want to. Here we go. Basketball JavaScript game. Where's it going? I mentioned they're using 4 spaces opposed to 2, which is blasphemy. And it looks like they're dropping the curly brace onto a new line, which I know some of the more old school programmers like that. Me
Right,
being
well,
a new
hang
school,
on.
obviously.
I mean, we've talked about many controversial things on here, but I think let's leave spaces and tabs out of this.
We could talk about politics. We could talk about anything we like, just not the space versus tab debate.
No, I think that's the one thing we can't go into. Programming styles. I mean, honestly, we don't want to alienate our listeners.
I will say they're not consistent though. They're not dropping all of the curly brackets onto new lines.
So
there we go.
So later on, after this episode, you can expect that Sam is going to take his Prettier install, which runs on VS Code, and reformat everything, and he will be contributing to the repo.
I'm open source. I have become open source.
purely as a result of reformatting.
Yep. Hey, every little helps. Tesco said it themselves.
Absolutely. So I think that's pretty cool, really, isn't it? It's bringing back the 1970s style computer games, rewriting them into modern programming languages and making them available for all, which is a great way to learn. Actually, people would have had to have written these out from a book to actually create the program, and they would have to have gone through a huge cycle of debugging as they've made various spelling mistakes, which for Sam and I both being dyslexic is a common occurrence. Always missing out those
everything.
Yes, absolutely. I was thinking about all the things I miss out, but variable names and semicolons, all of the rest of those things, it's a common mistake.
There ain't no copy pasting in the 1973, It's all hand coded.
No, absolutely. And actually, I think doing this as an exercise that you keep doing is a great way to get better at programming. Much the same way as coding katas are. I don't know if you've come across coding katas before or katas.
Yeah, I think it's like Code Wars and things like that.
Well, I mean, a kata, I think it's Uncle Bob Martin. I mean, Uncle Bob Martin would be a great man to have on the show, whether we'd ever get him. But I think he sort of pioneered the coding kata, which is a simple, a sort of simple coding exercise that you can in theory do in 15 minutes, and much like a martial arts kata is something that you would do to warm up for the day. So I think his primary one is I think it started with the bowling game kata, where you write a simple bowling game in a test driven development style, and you would write that out pretty much every morning before you get going, and just that rhythm would get you into programming, and specifically programming with a test-driven development style. So again, this is available on the web. Something that people have written into Carter with a K, have written into various different languages. Yeah, there you go. Codecutter.com there. Actually, that one's got a cat on it, but the bowling game is the primary one, which is largely to get you into test-driven development, which is a practice that we should all be experimenting with, definitely using.
Yeah.
But it's a great way to get a bit of experience in that by following through something and actually writing the same program over and over again. Is a good way to learn a new language, a good way to become a polyglot and being able to write in many, many languages.
There we go. There's only one more story that we have, is the musician robot.
Oh yes, there is. Yeah, and I'd missed this off the bottom of my list. So tell us about the musician robot.
So some students in Bosnia have created a robot musician, and there's nothing more to say other than it literally creates music. It looks very scary. It does look very, very scary.
So it is actually a humanoid robot.
This isn't the first time this has happened. It's more like you mentioned, this is humanoid. I have seen other instances where this is this machine that plays various different instruments and whatever. But this one actually, I mean, you can see it playing guitar now. It can actually play these instruments and do the robot, so it seems.
So it is actually playing the instrument then. So that's interesting. How good is the robot? Well, something's crashed. Sam, have you crashed, or is it me that's crashed? Well, this is exciting for a live show. I'm hoping that it's not just me that's crashed, and maybe Sam is still talking to somebody out there. But it appears not. We are still live on YouTube. Sam has disappeared, but we can probably find that. Well, he's actually got the robot, so there we go. I mean, interestingly enough, as we wait for Sam to return, we were talking on a show which will be released in a couple of weeks about digital manipulation and actually using the Unreal application that we talked about on the news a couple of weeks ago to actually create, again, sort of augmented reality and the augmented reality musicians. And so people like Roy Orbison going out on tour 30 years after he died, being able to bring back the likes of Peter Cushing to perform in Star Wars. And this is another way, I guess, of being able to see a musician, except for this one is entirely fabricated. And so it'll be interesting to know whether that Sam's sending me a text message to say that I'm still live, and I know I'm still live. Sam, you can join us any moment, and I'll keep going for a little while before we give up on this, because we've pretty much run out of news. But I guess this is a way of having an entirely unique creation, and I wonder whether this is going to be an artificially intelligent music robot that's actually going to define and compose music for us, or whether it is going to be a cover band of robots. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Maybe a way of the Gorillaz going out on tour. Well, Sam, are you going to join us? Sam says he feels bad for our listeners. I think that's because you're just listening to me and not him. And obviously Sam is the star of the show. Left with me. Thank you for that, Sam. Are you back now? You're just joining us.
Hello.
Thanks
Sorry,
for that, Sam.
listen-
Have you been
Sorry,
you've been
listeners.
watching along to my ramblings?
Well, I went to check whether you were still live and whether my internet was still working, which it was. It's just my Zoom was decided to pig out on me.
So,
that a phrase?
well, it is a phrase, but I don't think it's the right phrase. So, whilst you were away,
Joshed out.
whilst you were away, you seem to still be breaking up. This is because it's now nearly 10 o'clock.
People are waking up.
People are waking up. People are using the internet, and thus yours is disappearing. This is why we have to do it so goddamn early.
There we go.
Until Sam gets Starlink. Which actually has launched more satellites this week as well. So yes, it continues. The beta rollout continues. Whilst you were away, I was pondering on whether this musician robot was actually any good, whether they are actually genuinely playing the guitar. Also, whether it was AI and whether it is going to be composing for us or whether it's going to be a cover robot. And I did mention as well the Unreal stuff that we talked about with the likes of Roy Orbison going back out on tour after 30 years in the ground.
Well, I leave you alone for 2 minutes and you you ramble on all that.
Yeah. Well, this is what happens. This is what happens if you leave me alone. I just go in, this is welcome to my head, everybody.
There we go. Well, I mean, it must have cut out whilst I was speaking, but yes, it does. The difference between this one and another one is that this actually does play the instrument. If I reshare my screen, which probably was the thing that crashed in the first place, it actually does play the instrument. It hits the strings, it's a humanoid and all the rest of it. But there have been attempts at robots that can play instruments, but it's all part of one big printer-like mechanism. But yeah.
Wow,
Bobby.
That's interesting.
Bobby?
Well, I think we'll have to see what that actually sounds like properly.
Yeah, well, I can't.
It looks terrifying, actually.
I mean, it's just dance music. It's Bosnia.
It really looks terrifying,
Anyway.
though. It's got a horrible-looking face.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Man, they all look pretty creepy to me. Oh, there's 2 of them. Maybe they've got multiple musicians.
Is that one wearing a bandana? I'm pretty sure that one was wearing a bandana.
There we go.
I like that they've dressed them up for it as well.
Wow. Anyway, I think we should wrap it
I
up
think that's
there.
it. That's probably it for the news for today, then. Anything more to add, Sam?
No, thank you for tuning in. If you did.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated. And there will be a much significantly edited version of this, which will be going out on... is it going to go out Monday morning or Tuesday morning, Sam?
Tuesday.
Okay, so Tuesday morning.
8 a.m.
8 a.m., maybe a little earlier. You will get a new version, a shorter version of the news with our new episode. So that'll be episode 4 that's going to be coming out, and you will also be able to listen to this on YouTube if you can stick out with our first live broadcast on YouTube, and